It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting this morning. First, let me quickly breeze through the headlines of the newspapers, but definitely I'll be doing this with my colleagues. Federal government, for the Nation newspaper, federal government allays fear over threat to budget 2025 implementation as experts cautions against delayed fiscal execution dependence on oil price. And the next paper, This Nigeria, has it that electricity, federal government must address this crisis. Nigerians tell Tinubu we need to learn how South Africa is able to generate and distribute about 58,095 megawatts, how Ghana has moved beyond general darkness within 2 decades. And Nigeria News Direct is also reporting on the same, saying that the federal government meets Gencos to clear 4 trillion naira debt, avert power sector collapse, as Gencos raised the alarm over liquidity crisis. And the Punch newspaper has it differently, saying that, or talking about Rivers emergency rule, that National Assembly counters PDP governor's suit, demands 1 billion naira. And the National Assembly asks Supreme Court to dismiss opposition governor's lawsuit as Apex Court set for hearing. The Platform Times is focusing on World Press Freedom Day. 150 journalists killed, harassed in 5 years. IPC others raised the alarm. And Abuja Inquirer is talking about the trending issue between the federal government and the tech giant. Facebook, Instagram, Meta shut down Loom in Nigeria. Netizens urge government's resolution. Authorities call off Meta's bluff. And the Sporting Life says Monza 04 or 0-4 Atlanta. Lookman ends 6-game drought. Nets goal number 19 in all competitions. Eagle Star, we are desperate to win. Interesting development from the newspapers this morning. But if you want to look at one of the items, for instance, the Nation newspaper talking about the fear which the federal government tries to allay regarding the implementation of the 2025 budget following the increment of everything. They budgeted $75 per barrel, talking about oil price, but things do not appear the way they planned it.
And they are saying, look, this doesn't really give us a problem because the 2024 budget extended the capital side to withstand shocks that may come in 2005, but the recurrent side has already taken off. Now, we are in May now, and the physical execution of the budget is not being seen. So a lot of people are worried. Are we going to have a budget that will not perform, or is the government having problems dealing with this budget and making sure that the budget is implemented the way it should be? That's why the federal government say, look, because of all these things, we preempted this and we have some kind of shock absorbers. So there's no need to fear. Yeah. We're going to implement the budget as we planned to implement.
Well, as Thomas says, there's no need to fear. There's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Well, interesting. We've talked about projects that have been ongoing and they need to be completed. Talk about infrastructural development that we have been speaking about, and all of these are tied to the budget. So if we have not seen an implementation of the budget, then it becomes a challenge, especially when you're talking about this project that should impact the lives of the average Nigerian. Yeah. And so it's important that we understand how we can move forward, because we rely solely on oil as it is. Now we've been talking about diversification of our budgeting or our resources, where we can, have monies to addressing these issues. But obviously we are prone to external shocks because there was a drop in the price of oil. So it's important that we begin to look at how we can develop our society without just relying on the prices of crude, external prices of crude as it is. And if we are not able to do that, then on the long run, it will have its impact on our development as a country.
Most definitely, Rhea.
You know, for me, I feel like it's a step in the right direction because, of course, citizens are concerned. I am concerned, like, what is happening? Why has it not been out yet? But I'm also happy that they've come out to say that, you know, there's no cause for alarm. You know, you need to trust us. They made a statement which said, trust the economy and trust us. So at this point, we just need to keep our fingers crossed and hope that, you know, whatever they do and when they bring the budget out, it will be good for not just them, but Nigerians as well. So we just have to trust them at this point, and we hope that the right thing happens.
I think you're a very different breed, you know, trusting the government, trusting the process.
Well, we have to trust at the end of the day. We just have to keep our fingers crossed and trust and see how it pans out.
Right, this Nigeria is next. If you look at this Nigeria as well as Nigeria News Direct, they unite, you know, with this headline talking about electricity. Federal government must address this crisis. You know, Nigerians tell the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they're saying that we should look at South Africa, which is generating, you know, well over 58,000 megawatts, but we're still doing poultry, you know, less than 6,000 megawatts or 5,000.
Look at the comparison. To me, the comparison is unfair. The population of South Africa is less than 50 million. We are talking about 240 million or above here in Nigeria. The terrain of South Africa is also different, even the weather. So South Africa can explore nuclear for power generation. I don't think Nigeria can because of our weather. I'm not too sure of that, but where you need so much cooling for nuclear rods to generate electricity, how does it work in a country that has a kind of temperature that Nigeria has? On the other side, I think we are not as a country, we are not exploring enough technology on power generation. We are just doing thermal and hydro.
That's right.
You know, what about coal? We have coal in Enugu. You know, what about there are several other ways we can do that. So maybe Nigeria should look at the power sector again and diversify our sources of generating power.
Veronica, we are still owing as high as 4 trillion naira debts, you know, which the government is looking to avert. Otherwise, there will be collapse. Well, we just have to think of, okay, we pay for what we use, but people do not want to.
People do not want to because they do not trust the fact that whatever they pay for is being delivered to them. We have talked about the infrastructural deficit that we have. Efficiency has been a major challenge over the years. So if consistently you ask me to pay certain monies and you are not delivering on what is due me, then I'll begin to cut corners and look for other alternatives, although that is not the right way to go. Like he mentioned, we should look at exploring other variables. We had seen even the presidency talking about spending 10 billion naira or budgeting 10 billion naira on other sources of electricity. But we have sun. What are we doing? How are we going to generate any other thing that is important when we're talking about looking at other sources of generating power that is affordable to the average Nigerian? I think that is what we should be looking forward to. But as it is, these monies have to be paid, and we hear that the president is going to be having a conversation with Gencos on how these monies will be, you know, addressed and paid at the end of the day. Let's see what that conversation would bring up, and then we see how we can move forward. But something has to be done.
And just to add to that, I also know on the paper it wasn't just South Africa. Ghana was also added.
They said how Ghana has moved beyond general darkness within the past.
And to tell you something, so back in 2024, there was the Doomsaw. I don't know if you heard about the Doomsaw here. We saw people like Ivan Nelson and really big personalities in Ghana come out and protest against it. But over time, we can see that in 2 decades, we can see how the electricity has been restored back in Ghana. And now we know that Ghana is part of the West African plant pool. Now they can import and export, you know, electricity. It's just beautiful to see that now the new president, John Dramani Mahama, is really big on electricity. I can boast of 24, I feel like I'm a politician the way I'm talking. I feel like we can boast of 24 hours electricity right now in Accra and, you know, also some parts as well. It's not like it's so good, but there's always light. And I've moved from where I tell my friends, when they take light in Ghana, they send an email to tell you that we'll be taking the lights. Is that, like, they are really, really particular about that. And I feel like
some persons get that.
That's in Nigeria where town crier will be moving around that they want to, you know, work on something.
It's not just town criers, you know, they publish it a day on the newspaper that, look, tomorrow we're going to have, we're going to suffer outage.
Do they still do it?
Well, the system relaxed.
Right.
Yes,
because
I
of
believe
time.
so.
Because of time. I'll prefer that we move on to the Platform Times. Looking at the story here, it has to do with us. World Press Freedom Day, 150 journalists killed, harassed in 5 years. IPC, others raised the alarm. And then you see the infographics of 25 journalists killed, 100 plus attacked, detained, or harassed. 45 attacks reported in 2023 alone, and Nigeria ranks 123rd on 2024 RSF Press Freedom Index. This is sad. We are essential workers, and we are doing our social responsibility to, responsibilities to the audience.
Yeah,
why do you have to kill us?
In the process of doing our jobs, where at times we rub up on some people in a very, in a very personal and annoying way. It reminds me of myself. I've been thrown in cell like 6 times for doing my job, but thank God, anytime I'm thrown in there, about 300 people come out and I get out. But it's part of the job. It's how it is. Agba Jalingo, we were talking about him earlier on, was incarcerated in Cross River State for doing a very beautiful investigative journalism story. That was factual. But he was thrown in jail for months. And then he came out. Things like this happen depending on who is sitting in government as the big man and who the story concerns, unfortunately.
That's right. Veronica, as a journalist, are you ever afraid? I remember one of the stories that you did, but this story on environment. It was just one where you were standing, not even very close to the thing, but you were just looking at it from afar, and then the place just collapsed. Imagine one was standing right close to that.
You see that the risks many journalists take, there's a whole lot that have to be done for journalists, especially when you talk about their mental health. As when you go to the north, you see certain things, how people are suffering in some quarters or in some localities, and then you wonder, you telling the stories, the kind of challenges you face, even traveling to go tell these stories, and then in the process some are abducted, some have been behind bars, like he rightly pointed out. I think that there's a lot that has to be done for journalists. We have to give kudos to them for the work that they do as a 40th state of the realm, as a watchdog of the society. Of course, a lot of people will want to come hard on them to say, you know what, you are watching me too much. You are putting your searchlight or beaming your searchlight on me too much, and I do not want that. But unfortunately, some persons have had to cower as a result of this. How do we strike a balance in a democracy that will want to thrive? I believe that our government should do more for the average journalist in terms of encouraging them, giving them the environment to thrive. Their welfare package should be looked at, because you also hear of some journalists that haven't been paid for months and all of this. So it's a whole lot that the average Nigerian journalist is going through. I believe that a lot has to be done for the journalists to be able to do their job in the society.
And I always tell people, when you choose to be a journalist, you need to put all fear aside, because you will be attacked in one way or the other. And it's sad that we've seen a lot of people leave the profession because of fear that this will happen. But as a journalist, you stand for truth. When the truth is out, you definitely need to say it. You cannot be hiding the truth because you're afraid. So those are some of the things we need to understand about the profession. And also, I feel like at some point, they need to look at the welfare and take care of journalists. We can have the freedom of speech, but what happens after we speak? That's the problem, because I've said the truth. Now, what happens after I've said the truth? So these are things we need to look at, because we give the information. If we don't sit here on this table and tell you what's happening in Nigeria, how would you know? So we are very pivotal in the, in not just Nigeria, but the world as well. I feel like it's high time that our welfare is definitely taken care of.
I think it was Idi Amin, the former president of Uganda, that says you have freedom of speech, but I can't guarantee you freedom after speech. And it was one of the most brutal, despotic leaders Africa ever had.
Yes, and I also think that journalists, we should come together and help ourselves too. We should have some kind of body. Yes, we have the NUJ, but how much advocacy are they doing on behalf of the journalists? We should have. We should be more serious about protecting the rights of journalists and, trying to enforce the, should I say, the privilege of doing the job the right way.
And if you go,
because outside, people don't like the truth, so whenever you speak the truth, they always try to sideline you.
Oh, yes.
And if you go outside on the international scene, even Trump is trying to stifle, clamp down on media houses that are not, for him, for his policies. And if you go to Israeli-Gaza war, you see more than 200 journalists, apart from the women and children that have been killed. Shireen Abu Akleh mentioned them, being killed, and journalists being banned from the war scene so that they won't report what is going on there. So So it's so sad.
Some organizations have been banned from even coming into the White House to report.
Can imagine.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
We need to continue speaking the truth. The truth can never go down. That is our job. That is what we signed up for, and the truth has to, always prevail.
So looking at the story on the front page of Abuja Inquirer, and I know a whole lot of us might speak with passion, with this for this story. Facebook, Instagram shut down Loom in Nigeria. Netizens urge government's resolution. Authorities call off Meta's bluff. And then the issue has to do with Facebook, talking about Meta generally, infringing on our privacy, not making us have digital control over our own data, and not paying the federal government necessary dues when it comes to advertisements and all of that, and all of these things. So Nigeria is saying that you have to pay us the money you owe. No, not the money you owe us. They won a case against them, so you have to pay the fine. But Meta is saying, come on, we'll pack our load and go. Should they?
Meta will definitely do what we call the initial gra-gra. it will always be there. But if you want to do business in a country, you have to go according to their laws. You can't say because you're a business giant, a multinational, there are some laws that you're above. Nobody is above the law of any country in the world. So if you are owing Nigeria 23 something million US, please pay up. That's pocket change to Meta.
Yes.
So I don't see why Meta should
$220 million.
220 million. Sorry. Okay. I don't see why it's pocket change, my dear, for them. So why are they grandstanding when it has to do? You've broken our laws. It's gone to court. Nigeria has won the case. I mean, do the right thing.
Veronica, it's a global pattern where the tech giants has actually faced scrutiny over privacy, not keeping people's data, breaching people's data. European Union had fined them $1.3 billion. 1.3 billion euros, $5 billion by the United States. Nigeria's 220 million. You understand? So it is not new. This is something that's obtained globally. So if you are infringing on people's rights, you have to pay.
Yeah. Of course, you have to pay, but they'll look at what do they have to lose. They'll weigh their options. They are in business to make profit. We should understand that. And if you're saying that they are breaching certain rights and they feel that, no, what you are demanding of us is not feasible, because that's what they are saying. Every demand that government is making of them, they say it's not feasible. So I feel that they and government can have a conversation to know how to move forward, because many businesses are hinged on this platform. Talk about those who are making money off social media, how people connect on social media, and so many things happening. Small businesses, a lot of people have made gains as a result of these platforms. Talk about Facebook and all of it. So I think we need to also weigh the impact on the lives of the average Nigerian, and also see what we can bring to the table if we can negotiate. And if they are insisting they are not going to pay any amount, then we now decide, okay, do we want them to go or do we want them to stay?
But I'm going to make a very harsh statement on this. You've been asked to pay a fine, and they need to cut off their bluff at this point, because Nigeria won the case, if I'm correct, and this is what you were supposed to do. My only fear is for the digital economy if they really go, because it's going to affect a lot of people. But at the end of the day, we are Nigerians. We always figure it out. If you would not follow the term, you will not do what you're supposed to do, and then you now want to use gra-gra to face us, we'll come up with another thing. At the end of the day,
it's dependent on what you call gra-gra.
Because I don't understand why immediately they'll say they want to leave.
As a country, you have to weigh your options. Yes, you won the case, but there are matters that are won in the court, and you still go out
to settle.
But
my problem with that, Veronica, is why
we are also looking at the digital economy that you actually pointed out.
And that's what I said. It's very pivotal.
But also, we are looking at diversifying our economy and also hinging it on digital economy. Then we need to weigh our options.
But also, we need to also teach people lessons. They cannot threaten us, because now it's like they're trying to say that, okay, you guys need us, so we're going.
When you taught them the lesson, what happened? How many people have
I think Meta needs us more.
They should have a conversation. Exactly. They need to have a conversation about it.
We had this forth and back with Twitter, back in the day. When they deleted former President Muhammadu Buhari's tweet, and they had to come to a round table and say, this is what we need you to do.
That's what I said at the beginning.
So,
let's have a conversation.
They can't threaten us. They did not threaten
us. Okay, at the end of the day, this thing goes down to business. How much money are they making off Nigeria? How much profit? How good is their business in Nigeria? Are they going to throw that away? So anyhow we look at it, it still goes down to what Vero said. Hold on. It still goes down to what Vero said. At the end of the day, we have to calm down and sit down and say, look, this is my position, that's your position, let's meet each other halfway.
That's what they should have done in the beginning and said what they said.
Of course, I always want to make such posts.
Somebody has to do something for that to happen.
One thing is there has to be digital accountability, and Africa must begin to demand this accountability from these tech giants. They shouldn't just come here, make us blind, and then they are not calling our bluff. We should call their bluffs. They're making money off us. Let's I understand we still have more time. The Punch newspaper, if you look at, we're still talking about Rivers emergency rule, where it says National Assembly counters PDP governor's suit, demands 1 billion naira. National Assembly asks Supreme Court to dismiss opposition governor's lawsuit as Apex Court sets for hearing. Interesting times. River State would not cease to amaze us. We would never get to hear the end of what is coming up from River State. Even if Fubara is reinstated, there will still be more drama. You know
what that means? I don't.
Agreement is agreement.
Oh, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Well, it's still this calling of bluff that we're talking about. It's still this calling of bluff. I don't know the details. I think you do better than I do, so I should just shift it over to you. Let us know what's going on.
No, well, of course, it's all in the papers this morning, talking about developments of the PDP governors had gone to the Supreme Court to talk about the fact that the steps being taken by the government, especially the president, was something that was against the 1999 Constitution. But then recall that the National Assembly had supported the president's decision to enforce the emergency rule in Rivers State because of the situation going on there. And that was why the PDP governors had approached the Supreme Court. But here we are, the National Assembly is saying that the whole process of the PDP governors going to the Supreme Court is procedurally flawed, and that it was not in the place of the Supreme Court to addressing the matter. And so they are saying award a 1 billion naira fine for this process against these people for taking these matters even to the Supreme Court and not doing this taking the whole process in the right way it should. But at the end of the day, it still boils back to the people.
That's right.
The National Assembly had supported this move by the government in the first place to ensure that there's some sense of stability in the state. Recall that about 2 pipelines were bombed or destroyed in the course of what happened before the president declared a state of emergency. No one knows what could have happened if after those pipelines were destroyed in the first place. And the president, in his wisdom, decided that a national emergency rule was what the state needed. Now we have an administrator there.
And they seem calm. They seem
Can these people work hand in glove with this person while we hear about the goings on behind the scene to resolve all the political impasse that is going on, so the people can have a semblance of peace at the end of the day?
Well, you know the way politics is. My own is that I don't think they should pay the 1 billion. It's okay, let everything just go down the day. But now asking them to pay that amount of money, I feel like the PDP governor should have also done their assignment before they went to, done their research before they went to the Supreme Court. They should have known, if this what was going to happen before they went. But now my problem is now telling them to pay that amount of money for everybody.
Let's teach you a lesson.
But that's a lot of money, Veronica. That's a lot of money. Let's pity them.
Let's teach you a lesson. Let's teach you a lesson.
It's just what they are demanding. That doesn't mean that at the end
they'll
of the day
they'll
have to pay. But from what you have said, in most cases that are won through technicalities, that's what they call it, technicalities, you see that procedure is the main thing. So if you have breached one procedure or another, you should be ready for a countersuit like this, coming up from whoever you are having that beef with, if I can use that.
It's all about court is just, we're here, bring all your claims. We'll look at the claims. If you have the best of the claims that with evidence, then certainly it goes to you. So the law is an answer, they would say, but we'll see what pans out at the end of the day. But if you still look at the front page here, we might want to quickly touch on communal boundary clashes killing over 1,700 in 7 years. We just talked about journalists, who are being targeted, killed, and all of that. And all of this too in 7 years having 1,700 killed is a sad.
Is that referring to the whole of Nigeria or a particular state?
No, just, the whole of Nigeria. So communal boundary clashes kill over 1,000.
That figure.
So that they are usually estimated. You may not necessarily have maybe it's a round figure, but whether it's a round figure or even over bloated or one person,
my
community,
community suffered that kind of communal clash. I think 2 years ago. And for 3 months, people from my community and the community next to us were killing each other. The figures that came out of that carnage makes that 1,000 something look like that's 2 years ago, and that's the annoying thing. At this age and time, we're still having communal clashes, and we have a lot of that in Cross River State. Communal clashes, and you will understand that Cross River State has so many different cultures, so many languages, so many this, so many that.
That's right.
So the need to protect your boundaries is always very high. Yes, it is something that is happening. It is, and it's unfortunate. And I hope that as a people we decide that, man, this is a cake. We need to drop it. There's something called negotiations now.
Whether it's 1 or 2, once someone dies, and the lives of people that really matter. So it's really sad to see that we are still experiencing this, and this is not even the number actually. It's quite more than this.
It's much more than that.
So they say Naira printing costs skyrocketed by 306%. So we have countries that go outside of their shores to print their currency, and then they use money to buy money. They use money to pay for this.